What's up, you beauties? Welcome to High and Wide Hockey's YouTube channel, episode 37 of season 7. I'm your host, Jim Icavone, joined as always by Jack Smith. And if you're catching us live on YouTube, make sure you smash the subscribe button, hit the alert so you never miss a show. For all the podcast listeners out there, don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcast or Spotify so you're first in line when the newest episodes drop. We are competing with the first game of the Stanley Cup final tonight. So if you have the game on, make sure you have us on too. Give us some love before we really get going here. There's a lot we got to get to, a lot of topics to talk about tonight, including the Stanley Cup final. Do our quick HW Hockey golf hat promo. Attention hockey fans and golf lovers. HW Hockey's just dropped the perfect blend of style and performance. Our brand new HW Hockey golf hats. Whether you're hitting the links or just repping your favorite hockey brand off the ice, these hats are designed for comfort, breathability, and that clean classic look. With a sleek fit and embroidered HW logo, you'll be turning heads while sinking putts. Don't miss out. Keep it high and wide all summer long before they're gone. Venmo at HW Hockey, and make sure to send over your mailing address so we can ship out your new HW gear. And I got the barcode for you guys. There it is. You'll have 5 seconds to scan that puppy. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Let's get going here. So we do have a comment, Jack, about the choosing of our time and for the show tonight.
Chose
on purpose.
Chose. Oh man, I got 2 kids and a full-time job. There is no choosing.
Can you guys hear me or hear Jack?
I hear you.
Hear Jack. Is it me?
Yeah,
it might be me.
I think it's you again. I'm gonna keep going.
Off to a flying start.
I don't know why.
Can you hear me, Jack?
Yeah. Yes, I can. So yeah, there is no
take
choose.
It away, Jack. I'll be right back.
Yeah, like I said, 2 kids, full-time job. Whenever the time becomes available, we do it. So there you go, Jimmy. So you're fine. You just can't hear the rest of us. So yes, and this is the Stanley Cup. We already saw it last year. Might as well be a rerun. So at least this show is brand spanking new. Yeah, everybody's saying in. Both are good, loud and clear, Jimmy. So what I'll do until Jimmy gets things all squared away, I'll just start the job rolling here. Ants got Panthers in 5. I actually think Edmonton might have it this year. I think they're not as banged up and like rugged as they were last year. I think this could be a really good series. But if the Panthers were to come out and sweep them, that really wouldn't surprise me either, the way that team is built and what they've been doing. Thank everybody for piling in. I appreciate it. So plenty to get to today. Jimmy is back. Jimmy, are you hearing us?
Yeah, I think I'm good now. Sorry about that.
It's all good. All right. I didn't start anything. We're just talking about the Stanley Cup Finals a little bit. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, let's talk about the Stanley Cup Finals. They finally start after seems like a week's long hiatus. My God,
which is just silly. It's like they're week off, like the NFL has between the conference finals and the Super Bowl. Like it's like I don't know why they do that. You're well into June. It's summer at that. Like it just needs to end. Could probably be halfway over, but whatever. We're not in it, so I'm not too concerned.
I guess it's good for the players, to get healthy before, the biggest series of their lives and everything. But it kind of takes the momentum out of things. And I wonder if it does the same thing for the players.
Oh, yeah. Maybe they want to be a little healed up, I guess. But I really like this comment by Adam because did you see people freak out when Connor McDavid touched the I know the Eastern Conference one is I'm going to forget everything now. The trophy before you go to the Cup. There's a
Clarence B. Campbell and a Prince of Wales, I think.
Okay, Prince of Wales, I believe, is the West, and the Campbell, I think, is the East. Or I don't remember. Anyway, so this comment here, he says, this has Red Wings Penguins 08-09 feel. And people saw McDavid touch that trophy, and they flipped out. Crosby did the exact same thing. In 08, he didn't touch it, and they lost in the finals. In 09, he touched it, because he's like, we lost last year. What's the difference? And then they went on to win. Now, if you want to throw in my face that Mike Richards touched it and we lost, well, you got me there. But to compare 2 teams playing each other back-to-back with different results, that's a perfect example. And it blew my mind that they were freaking out that he touched it when I'm like, he didn't touch it last year, at least as far as I'm concerned, and they lost. So who cares? You know what I mean? Like, you already lost when he didn't touch it. So as far as I'm concerned, that goes out the window.
Yeah, I would have done the same thing. Like, what's the worst that could happen? We lose again, you know?
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
and you know what? I'm superstitious, but when it comes to that stuff, right? Like, we won. We earned this. I'm gonna touch this thing. It's ours. So I know the whole story. You didn't touch it last year. They lost. But I liked when Richards grabbed it. This is a guy that's not in his head. He's not going to leave it up to chance. And I know they ended up losing. They lost to a team that ended up being like a dynasty type team in the Hawks. But he's like, you know what? I'm not overthinking this. We earned this effing trophy. I'm taking it, and we're going back to the locker room with it. And then we're going to go. Look, they're not going to not try to win the next one. You know what I mean? But I do like the superstition. I think there's more superstition in hockey than any other sport, where it's like, this isn't the trophy that we want. So we're not going to touch it. We're going to wait for the one that we actually want in the Stanley Cup. So, I like all aspects of this little subject here.
There you go. There you have it. So, yeah,
all right,
that's starting now.
So I don't even remember who we picked. I had the Panthers losing in the first round to the Lightning, but, it's a rematch of last year, Jack. Do you want to give picks now? Or, I mean, I don't know what the score is going to be by the end of our show. So before anything crazy happens, you want to give any series predictions here?
I think Florida's going to win tonight, but I think Edmonton's going to win the series. I'm going to say 7 games. I mean, so just the intangibles. You're playing the same team. I know there's tweaks here and there, but Edmonton, as soon as they survive that series with LA, it seems like they're determined. Like, they really made Dallas look. I thought Dallas was that team, and they just whooped them like it was nothing. And to Florida's credit, they have handled business for sure. And the playoffs definitely lean towards their style of play, considering that they like to hurt everybody and they don't take penalties. So they don't call penalties, is what I should say, in the playoffs. So we'll see. Well, I think it'll be good. They were a great matchup last year, and I think Edmonton was running on fumes. I don't think that's the case this time, but Florida, I think, is better this year than they were last year. So we shall see.
Yeah, and I want to pick Edmonton too, because I think they want to win. They reached the finals last year and lost. I forget who it was in the locker room, maybe Hyman or somebody that said we'll be back next year. But that's the thing for me. Dave mentions that Florida's very deep in the chat. And, one of Edmonton's, better depth scorers, playoff performers in Zach Hyman is not going to be, he's not playing in the Stanley Cups. That's a huge blow for Edmonton, I don't know who they have to replace him. But the depth is going to factor in. And I think, or at least I hope, we have it as a topic. There's a lot of Flyers related topics to get to tonight. But the whole salary cap and, the non-state tax teams having an advantage. And Dave mentions the depth. That's where that kind of factors in. So, I don't know if you want to transition into that, because for me, that could take up such a huge chunk of time. Yeah. All right, well, we could.
Might as well. Let's go right to it.
I mean, I've been pretty outspoken about this, at least on our show, probably since we've been doing the show. There's a definite advantage for these non-state tax teams, and it's showing up now with. There's been a team from Florida in the finals for 6 straight years, and that's fine. They're allowed to be in the finals. Like, the argument that nobody was saying this when these teams weren't in it is silly to me, because I think GMs now have figured out that they can exploit it. And today's player, whereas maybe, back in the early 2000s or what have you, they would never play for Florida because it was like embarrassing. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm not going to go play for the Panthers, or, you know what I mean? And now you have these expansion teams coming up, Vegas, Nashville, not so much an expansion team now, but a newer team in the league, tax-free. You have the Dallas Stars in Texas, and they're talking about putting another team down there in Houston, and you wonder why. So these teams, it's strategic by the league. They're not just popping up with all these tax-free state teams They know it's going to attract players. They know the market's going to thrive because good players are going to want to go there. So for me, what I've seen a lot on Twitter, and I've tried to, have some discourse to see the opposite view and opinion. And in my opinion, the responses aren't very good. I don't think people who are responding to it have really looked up what they're talking about. They kind of just respond to respond, like, oh, that's a silly excuse. But when you can sign a player for, and let's use Mikko Rantanen, for example, just because that's sort of recent, there was talk that he wanted $14 million in Colorado, right? And why is that? Well, because they tax your income out there, and it costs more to live. Things are more expensive out there, right? So you got to pay him more money to meet the cost. It's just how it is. It's whatever. So Colorado doesn't want to sign him, so they trade him to Carolina. Whatever happened there, I'm not sure, but Rantanen, didn't want to play there. I think it even came out that he wanted to go to, and I could be wrong on this. I have to go back and look, but he would sign with a team with non-state tax, and so he was traded to Dallas. I think Dallas had to know that before they made the deal, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, he still signed for $12 million, which is a lot of money, but it's $2 million less than what he was rumored to want to sign for in Colorado. So, and I know everyone's going to say, 12 million, 14 million, whatever. It's not about the player. I want every player to keep all of their money, just like I want you to keep all your money. I want to keep all my money. Like state tax, like income tax is bullshit. All tax, in my opinion. Anyways, but that's besides the point. I don't care about the players and their money. It's the advantage for the team. So now Dallas has $2 million, to play with, and it can sign, a better depth player, because that's what happens. That's where this trickles down. When you can sign your stars for less money than another team, let's say in Canada, Colorado, wherever, where can you now use that money? You're not going to use the extra $2 million, I don't think, on another star. You're going to go you're going to pay a Sam Bennett, or you're going to pay, Gustav Forsling, some of these depth guys that Florida have, Evan Rodriguez, who's been outstanding during these playoffs and was outstanding in the Stanley Cup final last year. You can sign better depth guys. And what teams win in the playoffs? Teams with depth. You're seeing it with Florida. We were seeing it with Dallas. I think they were a little bit banged up, and they ran into a buzzsaw in Edmonton, who just happened to have two of the best players in the world. And they tanked for years to get them, right? So there's multiple strategies on how to compete and how to build a team. What we're seeing in the Stanley Cup final now is a team that tanked for, I think, at least a decade and have arguably the best player that ever played the game. And then the other side, which has a legitimate advantage with the salary cap. So I know I kind of went on for a little bit there, Jack, but what are your thoughts?
I mean, you're not the only one who's been outspoken. Paul Bissonnette was saying it right on after one of the games or during one of the intermissions. And what's his name went back at him. And to me, I don't understand. It's a clear advantage. There's no argument. It's an advantage. Yeah. If you're getting the same guy for cheaper than what we pay in Philly or somewhere else compared to a no tax state, it's an advantage. There's no shades of gray. It's a yes or no thing, black or white. It's a clear advantage. It should be addressed. Just because the teams and the GMs didn't pick up on it previously doesn't make it less of an advantage. This cap has changed multiple times. So anything before 2005, I don't even want to hear it. They're all like, oh my God, well, what did they do in the 90s? I was like, there was no cap. They didn't care. It didn't matter. So now you're talking 2005, 06 on, right? Okay, well, that cap was also different. You know what teams used to do? Like the Devils and even the Flyers, they'd sign a guy for 14 years and have like $750,000 on the cap for the last 7 years of that deal. Like there was ways to maneuver around it, and it was BS, and the league fixed it. It's because it was a problem. So and when was that changed? Like 2015-ish? So this has really only been a thing noticeably for a little bit. Teams are taking advantage of it, just like the Vegas with LTIR and all that stuff. This is what teams do. They're loopholes. You're supposed to close loopholes. I'm not going to say, oh, it's unfair and that's why we lost, or just take everything Bill Zito has done and throw it out the window, because you know how much I liked him when we hired Chuck Fletcher and he interviewed for the job and we didn't take him. No, he did a phenomenal job out there. It's not the end all be all, but it's clearly an advantage. And to say otherwise is it's honestly just stupid. Like the fact that I believe Elliot Freeman, and I took a picture of this so I wouldn't forget, posted that they're talking about their CBAs, and Bettman and Bill Daly CBA talks are in good shape, but no formal announcement. Doesn't sound like a tax differential issue is a big deal for the leagues or players. Yeah, I don't believe that. I believe certain teams have it. Of course, it's not a big deal for the players. They can choose where they want to go. So, yeah, it's probably a majority or a certain majority of the league that has an issue, and it will continue to be an issue because it's a clear advantage, hands down. Like, this is elementary stuff, how it's an advantage. But it just shows you they don't care. They think they do everything right, like how stupid the playoff structure is and other things. So, and then they went on about stuff with, Russia and even the Carter Hart trial as well, about their potential reinstatement. And they just said, we're going to wait until everything's done before we say anything, because what's been alleged is disgusting, obviously. Yeah. So, but like, I couldn't, they're not going to change it. It's not a big enough issue yet. Same with LTIR. But to say it's not an advantage or point to, it irks me. It's like they'll point to other stuff that these teams have done. Yes, we know they drafted well. We know they develop well. They know they make smart moves and good trades. It's still an advantage they shouldn't have, hands down. They trade or they acquire these younger players. Great job. You found somebody in the draft. You developed them properly. But a lot of other teams do that all the time, and they have to say goodbye to those players because they can't afford them. Teams in these states can't afford them because of the goofy tax situation. So to say it's not an advantage and point to other things, it's just silly to me. You're ignoring something that's clearly obvious, and it's being exploited, which is why it's being brought to the forefront and is an issue. I don't understand how this is even a debate. Again, I'm not going to cry and say that's the only reason why Florida's there is because of that. No, nobody's saying that. There's not one person saying that the tax is why they're there. Nobody's saying that. But it is hands down an advantage. End of story.
I mean, when you can trade for Seth Jones and Brad Marchand at the deadline, like not every team can do that, And I don't think anybody was on their long-term IR or whatever. And all you got to do is pay attention in the summer and at the trade deadline. Who are the teams making the biggest moves? Dallas trades for Rantanen. Florida trades for Seth Jones, Brad Marchand. Tampa Bay, I think, made some big moves. Yanni Gourde or whoever.
We're on like 3 players.
Yeah. And I know, like, people will bring up Nashville, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, they signed free agents. It blew up in their face.
Yeah, they spent
players wanted to go there.
And they spent the most money last offseason. They signed a bunch of guys. Like,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you have to have a good GM to be able to exploit it. It's not just, signed all the best players and things will work out. And it needs to be meticulously done. There's still team chemistry. But, I'm just glad that Paul Bissonnette brought it up on, national TV.
He's not stupid.
Everyone like, this guy talks to players every single day. You think he's talking out of his ass? These guys are telling him this stuff. We want to go play in Florida. We want to go play in Dallas. We want to keep our money.
Phenomenal weather. You're keeping most of your money. Like, it's just common sense. It's common sense. And it took time for these teams that were bad, like you said earlier, it was embarrassing to play for them, to the old-fashioned way, build up at least a good enough team to get noticed, and get players to go there. And then they start realizing it's like, I'm playing for a good team. I'm keeping more of my money. And you know what? The weather's pretty nice year round. Yeah. So it didn't happen overnight. It happened gradually. So when I see the other side start saying like, well, he did this and he did that. It's like, yes, we know that. Like, this isn't everything. It's just a clear advantage that shouldn't be in the game. It's as simple as that. If you're trying to make it fair, honestly, how the rules should be, you shouldn't have this. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I feel like it's something that they can figure out a way to mitigate so that every team has the same playing field, quite frankly.
The hard
state tax shouldn't influence what teams can do.
And the fact that they have a hard cap has always sucked. Like, I they changed that because and it was unfair when there was no cap. The teams like the Flyers and the Rangers were buying up all the free agents, and your lower end teams, your Floridas and your Tampas and teams like that we were taking their stars. We were throwing all that money at Chris Gratton. He didn't work out because he wasn't actually very good, but we threw all that money at Tampa's Chris Gratton in the 90s because we knew they couldn't match it. And so it's like, yep, you're screwed. We have all the money in the world. You have nothing. And so they had to fix it.
Back then, it was like if you were an expansion team, you kind of had to earn your stripes. You had to build stuff from the ground up. And now, and like it's no coincidence. I know Seattle's a new team. I don't think they're a non-state tax team, but these teams are popping up. And they're. It's almost like I wonder if like they're promised, like, hey, we're going to start putting teams in these states. We'll be able to attract players quick. It's good states to live in, yada yada. Well, I'm just curious. I don't know anything there, but it's like
I don't know if it's the end all be all, but they do want these teams to be somewhat successful early. Hence the new draft, because the old fashioned way, like I remember the Blue Jackets in Nashville, they were getting guys that were going to get released or sent to the AHL, and that's it. And maybe the first overall pick, but so I understand, and it's exciting, and good kudos to the teams that took advantage of it, like Vegas, but like. That's fine. You don't want a team to have to like suffer for 5 years when it's a new city and a new fan base. But this other stuff is just like, this. I don't even understand what the argument is. It's a clear advantage. I don't care if the GM is smart and did other things. It's a clear advantage over other teams that don't have that. Yeah. What's the argument to that?
Like put yourself in a player's shoes, right? If you're a good player, you get to pick anywhere you want to play. And I'm just going to use, so the Flyers they're in a good location for travel. Like that's what is appealing to the if you want to play for the Flyers, or if they're making a pitch, the travel's not that bad because you're in the middle of everything. But like if you're a player and you have the option to sign in Florida, Nashville, Vegas, any of these sunny non-state tax teams, why would you pick the Flyers over any of these teams? You know what I mean? Like it's an absolute advantage.
I get to live in this wonderful area, and I get to keep more of my money. Jeez,
yeah. I don't know what every day is like. Every day is like a vacation. You play a professional sport for a living. You go home. You get to go to the beach every day. And you get to keep more of your money. Raise a family, whatever you like doing. If you like partying, you can do that. You could do that too. I don't know. But we saw it with guys like. So I don't know how much of a trend this has been. But two of the better American players that have played in Canada, and one is Johnny Gaudreau, the other one is Matty Tkachuk. They both kind of forced their way out of Calgary. I don't know how much it had to do with, the tax and stuff up there, but two Americans wanted out of Calgary, and I think they were a very good team at the time to come south. Now, I think Gaudreau ended up signing where was it? Columbus. Yeah. And I think anything down here is you're getting taxed less than up there. If I'm wrong, please let me know.
Canadian dollar is real rough. So I understand wanting to get out of Canada. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Matty Tkachuk forces his way to Florida. So I don't know. Is it a coincidence? I don't know. But if I want to try to connect dots to support my argument, if you're an American star, like Austin Matthews, I guess could be the counter argument there. I think he's making $11 million, but he's playing in Toronto and he chose to resign. So, maybe there's nothing there. Maybe there is. Not sure, but there is an argument, like you can't just shut it down. And what I'm happy is it's coming to light now. That was what I wanted to say. Like guys are actually bringing this up, prominent.
Yeah, well, because even if it wasn't a thing, even if players didn't really dig into it, it's still an advantage, whether it's exploited or not. It's still a clear advantage on the books. Like you should be looking to fix that because that's what you changed the cap twice within the last 30 years because of this fairness, competitive balance. So if you have a advantage somewhere, fix it. That's what you're supposed to do. Getting this, they don't really care. Well, that doesn't really answer the question either. It doesn't fix anything. It just kicks the can down the road because you don't feel like dealing with it.
I think Zach is right about this too. Philly's good for taxes. Correct me if I'm wrong, but better. Pennsylvania state taxes like 2% or something like that.
I read something about like a lot of them live in Jersey, and it's better. and then just travel to Philly, because that's what we do. It's right over the bridge. So I think it has something to do with that. They don't get killed as much, or at least their property tax or something. Something like that. I have heard something along those lines. It's not as good as Florida and all those tax-free places, but
Yeah. So good discussion. Maybe we'll have more.
Maybe we'll have
further
the Flyers move to Delaware, like right on the cusp, and then we'll.
I'm just glad it's like coming up, because I'm sitting back like, yes, finally people are speaking up about this. And look, it's not even that I'm crying, because like I'm kind of the opposite, Jack, where if somebody can find a loophole to exploit, in my opinion, if there's a loophole, it's there to be exploited. So like kudos to these GMs that are like, yo, let's take advantage of every avenue that we have for us. And if we live in a tax-free state and we can sign star players for less and pay depth players more, quality depth players more, let's do that. No, there's only, 26 other teams in the NHL can't do this, So I love that. But at the same time, if you're a fan of one of these other teams, it's like, well, shit, we can't do that, So that's all. All right, let's move along here. So let's we were talking about Vegas and how, obviously they're one of the state income tax free state teams, whatever. But they also prioritize big, long rangey players on defense, as you should as a playoff team. So one of the guys that I've actually liked out there is Nicholas Hague. And I know they have a Braden McNabb. They got a Pietrangelo. They got some skill out there too. But there's been reported interest that the Flyers are looking at Nicholas Hague, Jack. What are your thoughts there?
I'm trying to look up his contract real quick, because he's got three more years at 2.2, almost 2.3?
I thought I'd read that he is an RFA. Hang on a second. I'm on Puck PD here.
That's what I'm looking at. It says previous, though, so I don't know when it ended. Oh, RFA 2025. So he's just a straight up no contract restricted free agent?
Hey, I think he's an RFA.
So he's due for a raise then. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So he's due for a raise.
Yeah, kind of like Cam York. Yeah.
He's a big boy. I mean, that's nice. I know they want to get big. They're not giving anything significant up, are they? Because when I understand, his advanced metrics are pretty rough.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm looking at like a bottom pair type guy to replace Igor Zamula, big body in the playoffs, clog up lanes in the defensive zone, a guy that you don't want to take into the corners in front of your goal. He's got a Stanley Cup under his belt.
Yeah, I mean, it's as long as they don't give up anything significant, I'm not against it. As much as I like to see some younger guys push, and maybe that means moving somebody else out. Maybe Bristow gets moved this deadline or something like that. I don't think he's getting moved.
And maybe that's part of the equation there.
I would hope, because otherwise I don't understand the rush. They've been shoving Hunter McDonald down our throat for a while. It's like, and he's what, 26? So it's not like they're bringing him in for a stopgap. So I don't know. They're just rumored. It's one of those things where I don't mind, but I know they want to get bigger, and that's all this screams. So as long as they don't give up anything significant, is what it is. But I'd rather bring up some young guys and, have them start pushing, unless they don't think they're ready. But how much time are we going to waste now? Aren't they supposed to be turning the corner this year? So we'll see. I thought they would bring in some. If they're going to do that, I thought they'd bring in somebody else who's a little bit older or something like that. So to me, it's going to depend on the deal, what they pay him and what they pay to get him, if that's the case.
So he was his cap hit before, or his average annual value was.
It was like just shy of 2.3, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, 2.294. You're right. Yep, 2.3. So how much of a raise does he get? Is it $3 million? Is it 2.75, something like that?
I guess. He's playing in Vegas, so he's going to have to ask for more money, right? Because, tax-free stuff.
There you go.
But like the chat makes a good point. We have this down. The Flyers made a couple of re-signings, one of which was Hellsgrons, and 2 years, two-way, one-way contract extension. He's a guy they seem to believe in to some degree. So wouldn't you want him or McDonald eventually, or some other. You still got Andre, who doesn't have like a cemented spot. Like these guys starting to push. I know they want to get bigger, but you have Risto, you have Sealer, you have Drysdale, you have York. I think so. Unless another move is coming, I understand them being in on a guy, but I got to see other pieces of the puzzle for this to truly make sense to me. Unless they get him for nothing, and in which case, sure, throw him into the mix.
Mm-hmm. And I'll say this, like, just from this regime's track record, when their name comes up in a rumor, it's usually just a rumor, right?
Yeah, they
so
keep things pretty close to the chest.
So this whole interest in Hague kind of brought up some thoughts for me today, because there's a lot of decent RFAs, and it looks like the Flyers are going to be connected to teams that are maybe hard pressed against the cap that have some of these RFA guys. And I just wonder if there's like a world where, like, hey, we're going to sign your player. Do you want to work out a trade before we do that? You know what I mean? Like, we know that your back's against the wall. Do you want something back before we do this? I know they're going to get draft pick compensation. So I'm just curious about that.
This is a good point here. He did win a cup with them, so that would be nice to have in the locker room. Again, like I saw a rumored trade. It was like straight up him for Brink. If I saw that, I'd be furious. Like, are you kidding me? Like, you were going to give up a player like Brink for something like that, unless they felt he could develop into a better player, a better defenseman, better defensive defenseman. But like, again, like I said, like his metrics were rough looking, and I'm not that guy, but I would hope for some kind of middle ground. Like, if your metrics hurt here, maybe this is a lot better. It really seems like he's coming from a winning caliber team, and he's huge. That's about it. And he's young. He's somewhat young. He's 26, defenseman still. But like, again, I would take him. They are hard pressed because they sign everybody, So I would be interested in if we can get him for a good deal. I hope they're looking at other people for sure. I hope this is just one of many, and for whatever reason, this was leaked.
Yeah. So I just wonder if this was something, because if Risto's out for 2 months, is Nick Sealer or Igor Zamula their biggest defenseman? And I'm not a particularly big fan of Igor Zamula. I think for what he does, he could be an upgrade, but at the right price, you don't want to spend too much on this guy.
I keep saying for nothing. I shouldn't say that. He's not going to come for nothing. But like, again, like that rumored, somebody just threw it out there. It's not rumored, but like a trade like that would infuriate me. Like, if you want to give up one of your picks or something because we have so many, okay, sure, or some roster player you don't foresee, but he's like on the border kind or something like that. Sure. And a pick, sure. But like anything significant, stop.
Yeah, I don't know.
And that's it. It's the size and the winning caliber that I can get on board with that. But I'm not giving up too much for it.
So I'm looking at Vancouver.
Still need talent. Still, I get it all, but we still need talent.
Yeah. I don't know if he's comparable to a Tyler Myers. Philip Hronik, they signed for a long-term contract under Tocchet. I'm not sure he's a Nicholas Hague type guy. So
I can see something like that, whatever. When we're like a deadline kind of deal, probably wind up overpaying a little bit. But if you're adding to an already really good team, I could see that. But now I get it. It just because he's big, which they want to get, and they won, and he's won. But you don't give up a whole lot for that. Not at this stage of your rebuild. You need those assets. So, and I think it's more of what you're saying. They're looking at teams that are really cap strapped and trying to take advantage. And that's what they should be doing. I just hope they do it. If they do it to Vegas, I hope they do it to multiple teams too. And I hope they're not zeroing in on players like this.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see, I suppose. There are some other players that have been rumored out there. Let's kind of go down our list here. Jason Robertson's name has come up a lot. I don't think we put him in our notes here.
Yeah. A couple names coming out of Dallas now.
Yeah. What do you think about Jason Robertson, a wing?
I know he's a winger, and I'd hope they could like maneuver some stuff. It's tough. It's like, do you give up assets and pay Jason Robertson, or do you just try to sign Marner? If say theoretically there was a chance, if Marner would cost more, but like, what would you rather do? And I kind of lean towards Jason Robertson. He's been played in those big games, and it's been pretty far in the playoffs and been pretty good. And I would be all. He's really good. I don't know what you do about center. I don't know how you make it work. But as far as do I like the player? Yes, very much so.
Okay.
So
I think we're in agreement there. Like, he's a fun player to watch, goal scorer. You can never have too many of those guys. But yeah, who's going to be passing him the puck, And then how much money do you want to spend on this guy? And how much you're going to have left over?
Jim, you had a tweet that you let out a couple days ago. I think got misinterpreted. You were referring to Giroux and Voracek, and when the Flyers they're at that era, but not the beginning of that era, the end of that era, where Giroux was moved to wing, and we essentially had all our money tied up in wingers with very little centers, and then we at least had Coots, but all our money was in the wings, and like we were the only team in like history to have paid, at least in the modern era, to have paid that kind of money to wingers and had lack depth at center and other areas as well. But like,
they had 3 wingers over 7 million. They had JVR.
Yeah.
And JVR, by that time, Giroux was playing. I know he was taking faceoffs. And then Voracek all making over 7 million.
TK was making 5.5. Like they were really shelling out money to their wingers, and center was left up to be desired. And that team sucked. They did. Even if those years they made the playoffs, like, oh wait, they made the playoffs. Those teams sucked. They got embarrassed in the playoffs. Like, it's not a winning formula. I'm not saying I don't want Jason Robinson. I'm saying they better have a plan for center if they were to do something like that. But it is rare these players can become available. Certain players become available. I don't care what position they play. You can get in on it and make it work. Please do. And Dallas is a very cap-strapped team.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say the Flyers aren't ready to add Jason Robertson. If you can get him, and then figure out the center thing. But you figure out the center thing. You know what I mean?
How about this question here? If it were to start with a 6, would you do it? I have 2 questions. 1, am I allowed to know who's on the board at 6? And 2, what else? What else? It says start with 6, not 4-6. What else? I don't know. I'd have to know. That's too tough of a question. Yeah, and then Vinny kind of answers it right there, because I was like, if all those centers are gone, like Denoye, Frondel, and Hagens are gone, and I'm looking at Martone, do I just roll the dice with Martone? Because they want to get bigger too. They want to get as close to their Kachuk as they could. Now, draftee is an unknown, but Martone's probably the closest thing available at the time of the draft if he were there at 6. So a lot of what ifs, but something bird in the hand's always better than 2 in the bush. So going into getting that guy, and they're supposed to be turning the corner allegedly. So that's tough. I don't know, man. I'm still on the rebuild train. I'm still on the let's build it up. I can live without it. Let somebody else take that gamble, unless you think you can really. You're also dealing with one of the best GMs in the league in Dallas there. You really think you're going to fleece him? I don't think so. So it's going to be tough.
Oh, is he an RFA?
Who's that? Jason Robinson?
Yeah. Am I looking at an old contract? His contract is up.
That's what happened to me when I looked at the.
He is an RFA. Year 4 of 4, unless we're talking this year's the last year. Okay, so after this season, he's an RFA. Got it.
Oh, and then you got to pony up the dough. If you're trading for him and giving up a lot, you're signing an extension, because otherwise you're really rolling the dice.
Yeah. Look, I know they said that they're going to start adding players, but I don't know if they meant adding big money contract star players yet.
Left wing, you play with Michkov right and left, just get him that center. My God.
Yeah, like I think the moves that the players that they add this offseason, I don't know, Flyers fans. I don't want to say Flyers fans are always disappointed, because how could you not be for the last decade? But I think the signings that we're going to see are going to be a lot of it underwhelming if we're already thinking that we're going to go out and trade for Jason Robertson. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Unfortunately, I kind of don't think we're there yet. I'm not against it. I don't see them doing it. I see them sticking to the plan, doing something at center, unless they have some other deal where they move out a winger or something. I think that move would have to happen first, though.
Yeah. Like all the dead cap comes off after this season. You got Hayes coming off. Atkinson, Lawton's coming off. You got no dead cap on the books after this season. You have more room to do stuff like that. But there's another player that's been out there in rumors with the Flyers. They've been connected to, I think, since during the middle of last season, the beginning of last season. We've talked about it on this show quite a few times, and that's Marco Rossi, who does play the center position, a little bit smaller than Jason Robertson. But his name has been out there. And I know since it's come out again, there's kind of been some cold water thrown on that. And for me, I would have my ears perked up even more. Oh, the Flyers aren't interested. Expect the Marco Rossi trade, So I kind of already know your thoughts on Rossi, but anything changed there?
Yeah, a little bit. These contract demands, the 7 for 7. I'm not against it, but I'm just thinking about, I don't know what's going to take to trade for him. He is on the smaller end. He seems to have to play with really good players. We luckily have a really good Russian like he had in with the Wild, so that could work. But depending on the price and then the contract to follow, do I really want to put all my chips in that basket? Sounds like they're not getting the offers that they want because Bill Guerin kind of backtracked a little bit on his, he was pretty, made it pretty well known that he wanted to get rid of Rossi. And it sounds like he's like, oh, no, well, he's part of the team. We're not in a rush to make our team worse. And, comments like that. So I'm a little, he is young, only 23, as you can see right there, 60-point season, played all 82 games for a smaller guy. And I would love seeing him with Michkov, but you're kind of, I don't want to say putting all your eggs in one basket, but you're putting a lot of your eggs in a basket. So it's between acquiring him and paying him. I'm still not out on him. I do hope they explore other avenues, though.
Yeah, I would agree with you there.
Well, the other thing is the rumor that came out. It was like Forrester and a pick. No. Then it was like Forrester. I'm like, I don't think I want to do that. I don't think they want to do that. And then it was like, oh, a late first. I'm like, yes, every time. Are you kidding me? The Oilers pick this year, but they're definitely asking for more than that. There's no way.
Yeah, there's no way that's true.
Yeah, I think they. I can't remember who released a report, but I think he got his wires crossed. I was like, there is no way all they're asking for is a late first for a 23-year-old center who's already got 60-point season under his belt.
Unless they're really looking to get rid of this kid, which would be, the Wild owe us a favor last year for gifting them Zeev Bouillon. So if they want to gift us Rossi and not sign him for him, which in a few years maybe $7 million doesn't look that bad with the cap going up and all, but I don't know.
That's what it is. I keep coming back to with the cap going up, and I always have this mantra that I try to stick to. And it's like, just because the cap's going up, it doesn't mean you make bad deals, even still. And I don't think it's necessarily bad, but it makes me think. It's like, do you really want to commit 7 years? You're buying up the guy's entire 20s, and you do need a center, though. How else are you going to get one?
That's the thing, too. You're going to have to give up assets to get them.
And a lot of these moves will come back to moving Tippett, and I'm not against it. You know how much I hated his exit interview, but I don't think they're moving Tip, at least not this year. I can't think of. I can think of maybe one scenario when is a team signed a guy long term, and after 1 year of that, like a down season, they move him because it's like unless he did something
Mike
off
Richards
the ice,
and Jeff Carter, they didn't have down years,
but they had them playing for them for a while, and they didn't.
I get what
you're
years. Saying.
Yeah. And Ryan O'Reilly's the one that comes to mind because he was moved from Colorado to Buffalo. And right away, there was an issue. Like he did something off the ice, like in a car accident at a bar, or something weird like that. And I still think he was traded in 2015. It was from Colorado to Buffalo. And I think Buffalo moved into St. Louis in 2018. So it wasn't even 1 year. It's just something you don't typically see or even do. You sign a guy long-term, here's your contract, we believe in you, and now 1 year kind of down year and you're out. I don't see that. So, yeah, I can't think of anybody signing a long-term deal like that, and they just got rid of you like that. Which was Shen? And how serious of a deal was that? Now I have to look it up as Jim goes potty. Aiden Shen traded. So I mean, Shen was with us for a bit, and maybe it was when he was re-signed. Let's see. Yeah, I was going to take me too much time. I'd have to have Jim. See, I see Richards too, and it's like he was with the team for a while. Like it was when he was re-signed, and then they saw things they did off the ice, like Dry Island, them all going out and getting hammered and doing. And Richards obviously had substance abuse issues as well. It was like stuff like that off the ice. Like I don't see it too often on the ice. 8 years they signed it for. 8 years. Even when you play NHL and you like sign a guy in free agency, immediately trade him. Like even that game warns you it's a bad idea. It's just not a good look. The haul for Shen, it was it was 2 picks. It was Frost and Farabee. That's hilarious. Yeah, Frost and Farabee, and then Jory Laterra essentially, but they were picks at the time. So anyway, I don't want to stick on that for too long. Tippett gets brought up a lot. I would just be surprised. I'm not saying they won't trade him. I just will be like, I think they're going to wait like a year or two and see what they have in the guy.
I kind of want to see if Taka can get like a blockbuster type of year out of him.
They're not.
I think he's got it in him,
and they're not doing anything. Like they're rebuilding. It's not like they're trying to win. When Shen and Richards and Carter, they all signed, the team was trying to win. So it's like there was, decisions had to be made. With this, you don't really have to do anything. And if you could trade him because he had a down year, I guess, and he explodes for like 40 goals or something, then you look like an a-hole. But I'm not saying don't do that because you don't want to live in fear, but that's the risk you take.
Yeah, there's been a lot of Owen Tippett talk, and I know didn't
it's
have
all
the
over
best year, but he did admit like after he got hurt, he was never fully back.
What bothered me about his exit interview was he still thinks he had a good year, and he like barely scraped together 20 goals. He took 100 less shots this year. Like he had 0 power play goals. I know the power play was bad, but come on, that's what you're supposed to do, score goals. And he's like, no, I had a good year. I'm like, yeah, no, you didn't.
I wonder if playing under a different coach, different style of hockey. Let's see. Like, don't we want to see that before we give up on them? Before we get the new coach and system and power play coach, who we'll talk about.
Yeah, and Shen signed a 4-year deal. Yeah, that was, it's half of what Tippett signed.
Yeah, I don't really lean one way or the other with Tippett. I know that he has some highlight reel goals and things like that, and if we get that more consistently, but that's the thing. That's the difference between the star players, the really, really good players, and, maybe you're a 20, 25 goal guy, is the consistency. Can you do this over an 82 game season consistently? And, some guys go cold for very large stretches, and, those are good players that we always talk about. Oh, this guy's got potential for 30 goals or yada, yada. And so, like I said, I can go either way with Tippett. I do like him as a player, but if they end up,
you might as well see what you have. Unless you get some kind of sweetheart offer, you might as well see what you have. Because I would like the cap space. They're projected to have like 40 mil next year, so that's another 6. Like Jesus.
Yeah.
John G here, it's funny. He says it's funny, but I think we grossly underestimate how unpopular Tortorella was. How no one wanted to come to work. My response: good. Yeah, this team's been killing coaches since they lost the Stanley Cup. Now we can turn the page and have like a coach who actually is interested in winning. But I think Tortorella did exactly what he was supposed to do, even though he's insane.
Yeah, I do wonder, like, if it's going to be like a breath of fresh air for these guys when they come back. Like, oh man, like I forgot how much I like playing this game, yada, yada. And will that allow them to play more free? Will that allow them to play better, with the atmosphere?
Well, they have the accountability, and now they can, and they have a strong locker room. This locker room, we're making jokes. It's like, when did the Flyers locker room become like the Phillies locker room? Like, these guys actually give a shit about each other. Like, they love Michkov, and it's like they for the most part are held accountable. They stand up for each other. Remember that the players are getting killed and they're not even dropping the gloves or hitting anybody. Those are the days of the past. Now you're bringing in the guy you're planning on winning with and really planting your flag. You're like, we're a destination again. So it was tenfold. And we kind of knew that's how it was going to end with Tortorella. The guy's insane.
Okay, so let's move along here. The Flyers have made some moves. They've signed some players. They brought in a new assistant coach. Yaroslav Svejkovsky has joined Rick Tocchet in Philadelphia from Vancouver. And by all accounts, I believe he's taking over the offense and he will take over power play duties. Vancouver finished 15th in power play percentage last season, whereas the Flyers finished 28th or 29th. So, I don't know how much of that directly translates to the coach, but 15 spots higher than the Flyers is pretty significant. Any thoughts there, Jack? Because I'll be honest, don't really know the guy. Don't know much about him aside from what I just mentioned. What do you think?
And Vinny, I thought I saw something about some connection to Quinn Hughes. It was like drafted 17th overall by like Washington in 1996 or 1997, kind of a bust. But yeah, like you brought up the power play numbers, and Vancouver seemed to be happy to get rid of him, at least some of their online fans. But to me, 2023, the power play finished 11th, 24th, 12th, 25th, 15th. I know that's trending the wrong direction, but that's above average easily. So I'm like, that is tenfold better than what we were dealing with. So fine with me. Let's see what he can do. Whole new set of players, different locker room, different players actually like each other here. So we'll see how that goes. They don't have Quinn Hughes back there. They don't have Brock Besser on the power play, but they should have some guys who can develop into something. So, and they do have Michkov. So yeah, I'm not saying they brought in the guy, but it should be significantly better than what they had. He's at least competent. At least it would seem that way. So I'm not gonna say I'm excited, but I'm expecting a significantly better product on the power play.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I was ever excited or disappointed in an assistant coach hire. So,
would you let it go? He's not here anymore. All right, Tortorella. Everybody knows who he was. Everybody knows. He knows he's an embarrassment. He doesn't give a shit. And that's what I like about him. He says what he says. You know where you stand with the guy. Now let it go. All right? He's the only one that's got a cup around here. So let it go.
People listening as a podcaster like, what the hell is Jack talking about?
Well, let it go.
All right. A couple of housekeeping topics here. And I'm curious to see what people think about these contracts. So Tyson Foerster was signed, I believe it was, last week now? 2 years at $3.75 million average annual value, Jack. And then Noah Cates this week, 4 years at $4 million. So $7.75 million of the cap tied up, at least for the next 2 years. Thoughts on each of these deals? Let's start with Tyson Foerster.
Well, spoiler alert, I like both deals. The only thing I would say about the Foerster deals, I obviously wish it was longer term, but it is kind of smart for the player. Definitely deserved a raise. Definitely picked it up at the end of the year. He's a guy who could thrive under Tocchet. Let's just hope I definitely don't want to trade him. So let's just hope he can just keep growing and keep going and turn into that guy that we really think he could be. And definitely the team thinks he could be. 3.75 is absolutely nothing. So can't argue with that. And now in 2 years, we'll see what's going on, but it's tough. He will still be a restricted free agent as well. So that's great. It doesn't bring him up to free agency. So can't argue with that deal. Did you want to do thoughts or should I move on to Cates?
I mean, it's just, I'm good with that deal. 3.75. I'm not going to lose sleep over that. I really like Tyson Foerster. But I need him to get to 30 goals this season. This past year, he was my guy that I kind of picked for. Maybe he's going to regress statistically. And he did until the end of the year where Torts got fired and he picked things up. Very good defensively. Nobody really saw that coming. So kudos to Tortorella for bringing that out of Foerster. And if he can get the offense going in year 3, I'd like to see 30 goals, at least a 50-point season. But I want to see 30 goals from Foerster because I know he's got it in him. And maybe the new power play coach can help with that. Let's see. So, we can move on to Noah Cates now.
Yep, perfect. And Okay, yeah, 4 years, $4 million, slight overpay, but I still like it. Like he's developing into something of a locker room voice and a leader. He's a player that playoff teams would love. He drives play. He does everything right. Like he's a guy you're going to want on your bottom six, especially when it does eventually come time to compete. And then I think when say you don't do it much in 4 years, I hope they do, but you have to re-sign him. I don't think he's going to get much of a raise. This is kind of the going rate. Maybe his offense will pick up a little bit, but he's such a good player to have around. I have zero issues with this, and I understand it's a bit of a overpay, and I'm fine with that. Usually, you hope these guys kind of grow into their contracts, and he's such a glue guy. Like you need these kind of guys around. He's earned it. Good for him. Good for the team.
Yeah. He's on Team Canada over the summer, and I think he had a pretty good tournament too. I didn't follow that tournament as much as maybe some of the other guys in the chat. Jack, did you follow the World's tournament at all?
Not really.
Yeah.
It picked up things here and there.
Yeah, it's tough. I think they had games like during the day and stuff. I don't know where they played, Sweden or something. But by all accounts, it sounds like Tyson Forster had a pretty decent tournament, and you want him to succeed, playing with some of the world's best players. Speaking of that, this wasn't on the list, but Sam Ersson had a hell of a tournament for Sweden, and it makes you wonder.
Outplayed Markstrom, if I'm correct, right?
What's that?
He outplayed Markstrom, I believe. Yeah,
who is Sam Ersson? Is he the goalie that is playing behind, some of the best players for his country, or is he the goalie that we see in Philly, where it's like every game he's given up one of those shots where it's like, come on, dude, you got to stop that.
I think it's the grind of an NHL season that he struggles with as a starting goalie. I think he's a tandem guy. I really do. I think he'll, in a tandem or even like a backup role, I think he's going to give you some gems. I do. But if he's got to take the reins long term, I don't know if it just wears on him, if it's a mentality thing, if it's a groin thing or what. But he just kind of he just can't keep it up. And he falls into that soft goal here, soft goal there. So he's a guy I hope they keep around. I'm not ruling it out that he can't figure it out and become a starter. I just think he struggles with consistency, something fierce in the NHL. Now, maybe when the team gets better, they have a better defense, we can get more out, and he just develops more. It is goaltending. Maybe he can turn into that kind of guy because he shows the flashes, proved it, but that's kind of why I want I don't want to trade for Thatcher Demko and pray that he's healthy when it looks like he's anything but. I'd rather get a guy like a Jake Allen for 2-3 years and, go from there and see what you have with those two until Zavragan or Bjarnsson's ready or something like that. So, because he could still be the backup. I don't know. I think in spurts he can do this. He can show you that he was good in Four Nations too. He was good there. It's, I guess something about the Flyers and the grind is just gets to him after a while. So we'll see if he can figure it out.
We shall. I like Vegas's comment here. Forster played with Sidney Crosby, Vegas. All right. I would,
Good job,
Vegas.
Vegas.
Crosby. Bring him in.
Stop
him home.
Stop.
Perfect stopgap center. But I digress. Let's move on here. Noah Cates, Jack, 4 years, $4 million a season. It was rumored. Let me see how much of a raise did he get? It was like over $1 million. Can I see his old contract here? This is Noah Cates. I'm sorry. Contract history.
I think
he was making 2.625.
Okay, almost.
And got just under $1.4 million raise for Noah Cates. Now, a little bit of buildup up to this point. The Flyers wanted to sign Cates to a longer-term contract 2 years ago. I assume that the agents and the players knew that the salary cap was going to go up this summer, and Cates didn't want to sign the long-term deal. He wanted the bridge deal, and he wanted to sign it this summer. I'm sorry, he wanted to sign his longer-term contract this summer, and he kind of got what he wanted there. He had a very good season last year. Had very good chemistry with Tyson Forster and Bobby Brink. That line was arguably the Flyers' best line for stretches of the last year, at least the most consistent. So 4x4 to me seems fair. This is a guy that I see as the Flyers' third line center. What are your thoughts, Jack?
I think he can play wing too down the road if he needed him to. He's I don't think he's a perfect comparison to a Lawton, but he can be that utility player like Lawton was, and he's got the leadership skills as well. I do think he does more things that I like as well. So I think he's the kind of guy you need on your team that you keep around. He'll have value around the league, and he'll have a lot of value to your team. I think it's fine.
Yeah, it's a fine deal. Yeah, I like Noah Cates.
It's not going to affect the team one way or another, and I'm a very big fan of Noah Cates. I just know we know what he is. He's not going to break out and pot 25, and all of a sudden he's our second line center. We know that's not going to happen. But for what he is,
30 plus points, 35 plus points, and good defense.
Played a full season, played all full 82, I believe, this year. Like, please. Well, he may play 81 because I think he was benched. Like to start the season, he was benched for Luchenko. So
he was.
He took a lot of heat because he was injured a couple of years ago. And he had showed some flashes, got injured. People were almost done with him, and then he came back. So yeah, I mean, I'm glad because he's my son's favorite player right now as well because he gave him gave him a puck gave him a wave at practice.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we're a little bit over an hour into the show. There are topics that we can save for next week or we can do tonight, Jack. Was there anything that you wanted to cover that's still left tonight?
Why don't we just answer some questions in the chat? Some good stuff in there.
Okay.
Would you do this?
Spicy trade. Cam York, Ryan Poehling, and our number 6 to Los Angeles for Quentin Byfield. I'm leaning yeah.
So I agree with Lyndon. I would, and I think LA would not, unfortunately. Now, the only thing we should talk about, well, maybe not. We don't have all the information. They're bringing up Carter Hart, and I'm not there yet. I want we're gonna hold off on Hart. Let's get more information out there, then we'll see. Teddy's we have him in the picture of the show. I didn't see the
man, I don't even remember. Oh, that was all that was his court stuff from last week. If we didn't talk about him tonight, I think I put out an update video last week. So you can catch up there. I don't think that there's anything new. So yeah, give that a listen after our show tonight. But we are over an hour. So
it's a lot of draft stuff, and I'm all about it, believe me. We're releasing a show. Oh, that's funny. He's coming back, Jim. Oh, in a heartbeat, but no way. Never happened. This is something to keep an eye on. We're not going to talk about it too much, but apparently it was reported that Utah could be dangling the 4th pick. I don't know if the Flyers would be interested. They move up from 6 or if they get it outright. But, yeah, they should be all over that depending on the price. But that's about all I don't know a whole lot more. I don't even know if the rumor is true. But, yeah, then you're getting closer. But, yeah, I'm going to do a draft show with Paul. It'll be released tomorrow. So if all your draft questions, we're going to do a mock draft basically because we don't have Josh. Excuse me. So keep an eye out for that. Draft's coming. It's only going to get more and more content until it's finally here. And I can't think of a draft that was going to be, at least you would think, this wild. Like the names and where they're going, everywhere from like number 1, really, until the whole draft. So it should be fun. Hopefully the Flyers navigate it right. Big year for Brent Flair. Keep that in mind. But yeah, so keep an eye out for that tomorrow at some point. But yeah, Jim, I don't want to get into too much. Like you said, we covered all the house cleaning, all the re-signings. There's a lot of speculation out there. We can go on for hours with that.
Yeah, it's that time of year. There's going to be rumors. Flyers are doing a lot of housekeeping stuff, signing their own guys. I believe Cam York and Jacob Peltier are the only RFAs on the Flyers roster left to sign. So we'll see what happens with that.
I think York's going to be last.
Yeah, we shall see. I wonder if we're going to see like an RFA swap. That's, you know what I mean?
Can they even do that? No, of course. have to come with contracts. That would be
Right.
fun. I don't know if that's probably happened before, but I can't think of when.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see. We are another week closer to the NHL draft. Today is June 4th, so we have about a little bit over 3 weeks left. So yeah, fun times. We'll put out, as Jack mentioned, we're going to be putting out a lot of content up until the NHL draft and even after for free agency and whatnot. So I think we're going to wrap up the show here tonight, boys and girls. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to subscribe and help us continue our quest for, what do we say we want to do? 5,000 subscribers?
5,000.
Last time I checked, we're at 1,400. So we're getting there. So thank you to everyone who has subscribed. Old and new, we really appreciate you guys. Like and leave a comment for us on YouTube. Listen to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and set alerts so you're the first to know when we drop a new show. And for all of our latest episodes, articles, and updates, you can head over to hwhockey.net. We're still updating the site. So yeah, we're going to head out here, guys. We'll talk to you next week. In the meantime, don't forget to keep it high, keep it wide, and we'll see you next time on HW Hockey. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.